someone, you have no idea what that means sometimes. And over the years, it can take all different shapes and forms. It's a strange thing. And it can turn you around, turn you upside down, and do a lot of fun things, and it can expand to many others. So as I wrote this song, I decided this is the Becky version. So it's got a lot of pictures paying tribute to her. So as you listen to the song, it's called Love is a Strange Thing.
Love is a strange thing, a turn you upside down thing. Love can make you sing, then make you cry. And though sometimes it hurts so much inside, most of us want loving till we die. Most of us want loving till we die. Love is more than words, you know. Love can come and love can go, and it's important that you know it's something that can die or grow. It all depends a lot on what you say and do. If you want real love, depends a lot on you. So what will you do? What will you do? Love is a strange thing, a turn you upside down thing. Love can make you sing, then make you cry. And though
That was a picture of Noah and his family at the end there with the ark. No. Well, we're going to take a look today at what is a virtuous woman. It's found in Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31, it's the last chapter in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is the book of wisdom. And you may not know what that word means, virtuous. The Bible talks about it. The word virtuous means, it's interesting, it means valiant. It's also used for an army. So a virtuous woman is valiant. In the book of Ruth, chapter 3, verse 11, it's a book about a Gentile. And if you grew up, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood. And a lot of times, sometimes the feeling that Jews are called God's chosen people. But sometimes there is an animosity towards Gentiles. Of course, where I grew up, most of them were survivors of Dachau and Auschwitz, so they really didn't have a good experience with non-Jews. In Hebrew, the word for Gentile is goy. That's the same word for dog. And but it's said in Ruth chapter 3, verse 11, that the city knew that Ruth was a virtuous woman. And I don't know how many of you know this, but Ruth is Jesus' great-great-great-great-grandmother. So he had a Gentile great-grandmother. We're looking at a few verses here in Proverbs chapter 12, in verse 4, it says, "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones." It says she's a crown to her husband. Again, we looked last week when we were looking at women, the role of moms, that a crown was this is something given to a victor or to a person in authority. And so when a person is virtuous, she becomes a crown, a blessing, and a help to her husband. It says, verses 1, who is rottenness to his bone. There are a lot of unhappy married people out there. There really are. I just finished a song yesterday. It's been working on it for a little while. It's actually from my son, Daniel. But the name of the song is I Never Knew You. I Never Knew You. And in the Bible says at the end time, we're going to stand before God, and there's going to be two groups of people, those who knew, those who followed him, and those who did not. And there's going to be a lot of people going to say, Lord, I've done this, I did that. They're very religious. But he's going to say, I never knew you. And I said, those are words you don't want to hear. The problem is sometimes couples and families look at each other and have to say, I never knew you. It happened to my son, Arturo. You had to deal with that too. I was thinking of you when I was writing the song, where one day you love someone and all of a sudden you look and they do something and you go, I just learned I never knew you. I never knew you. And so sometimes the wife can be a blessing, or it says it can be rottenness to his bones. How's that to describe somebody? You know, it's like, do your bones ache? Whoa. And it says in Proverbs 31, which we'll look at more details soon, it says a virtuous woman is hard to find. There's not a lot. There really aren't a lot of them. Today, the whole thing is be yourself. Be me. And really, people put themselves first. They said one of the most popular hymns of all time is the hymn, How Great Thou Art. And I said, I think part of it is because people get up in the morning, they look in the mirror, and they sing it to themselves. How great thou art, how great thou art, you know. And instead of singing it to God. And there's people who, it's hard to find someone who's virtuous. It's hard to find someone who is going to meet the description of what we look at here. And if you have a wife or you have a mom or you know a person like this, it says it's unique. This is not very common. In Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10, where it gives a lot of detail about the virtuous woman, it says this about her. Proverbs 31, verse 10, the very first introduction to what a virtuous woman is, says, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. Her price is far above rubies. Back in the Bible time, gold was valuable, but the most treasured jewel of all was a ruby. Rubies were the most precious stone that there were. They symbolized wisdom, beauty, and protection. They were on almost every crown or every symbol of authority you would find rubies. And it's said that a virtuous woman, her worth, she's worth more than rubies. I had a friend who reenacted with us. One of our impressions we do is the 4th New York, 1775. The 4th New York was east of the Hudson River. There was a group called the 3rd New York, west of the Hudson River. This fellow was in the 3rd New York. And his name was Gary. And Gary said one time he went to a tag sale and he saw a helmet for sale with horsehair on it and looked like a Revolutionary War style helmet. And he thought it was a reproduction. And so they cost a lot. They're expensive to make. And so he paid $2,500 for it because he thought it was worth it. Well, he found it was an original. I think he sold it for $25,000. Then, again, he got to an interesting point. He goes to another sale, not the same year, but later on, he finds a picture frame he likes. And this story I'm telling you was in the New York Times, but he's a friend of mine. So Gary then goes and sees this picture he likes. Not picture, the frame. He doesn't want the picture, he wants the frame. He gets it home, he takes the picture out, and in it is one of the 13 original copies of the Declaration of Independence. And so he sells that for, I don't remember, that was $50,000. It would go for a lot more now, but he sold it for something like that. So he used that money, bought a house on Long Island. And the 3rd New York not only was from the western part of the Hudson River, but for some reason it also included Suffolk County. The 1st New York was Manhattan, the largest city. The 2nd New York was Albany, second largest city. The 3rd New York, the other side of the Hudson River. 4th New York, this side of the Hudson River, plus Brooklyn, Kings, and Staten Island. But Suffolk was the 3rd New York. So he bought the house that happened to belong to the ensign of the 3rd New York. And the ensign is the person that carries the flag. So he buys the house, and in the attic in the house, he finds a chest. And everything in the house is his, and they said, yeah, that's yours. So he opens up the chest, and it's one of the original numbered regimental flags, the oldest regimental flag ever found in America. He goes to Sotheby's auction house, and they priced it at $500,000. He put it in a frame, and he brought it to one of the reenactments. So we got to see this flag. I remember I'm one of the first people, Frank and I were the first ones to see it. I was in the back of his truck, and he showed it to us. I said, this is sitting in the back of your truck, you know? And then Sotheby's sold what are called the Tarleton flags. General Tarleton, the British, he'd captured some American flags, and they were in the Tarleton family, and they were sold, and they sold for $2 million. There's like 3 of them. Sotheby's called him back and said, we have to adjust the price on your flag. It's not $500,000, it's $5 million. I said, Gary, I wish I had your luck, the hat, the frame, and the flag. He said, no, I'd rather have yours. I've been married and divorced 3 times, and I'm not happy. He said, I'd trade what you have for all of that. The Bible says a virtuous woman is worth more than rupees. It's more valuable than that. And Proverbs then goes in the very next verse in chapter 31, verse 11, says, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. It says he trusts her. That's pretty good. Spoil, back then, when you went to war, you defeated the enemy, you got to keep what the enemy had, which included goods, cattle, and sometimes women. People brought back women as a servant or as a concubine. And I mean, it's sorry to say, but David, Solomon, they called the wisest man ever. But even though he's the wisest man ever, he's like the stupidest man, too. It was sort of like Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was the home run king. He was also the strikeout king, right? And Solomon women caused him great problems. But it said here, this husband will trust in her so that he has no need of spoil. He doesn't need to go to the battle to get the rewards there. What he has is good. And then in Proverbs chapter 31, verse 12, it gives you the qualities of a virtuous woman. There's 17 of them. We have notes, so if you can fill in blank notes or filled in, but you may want these to look them up on your own. Remember, the most important thing is not what do I say, what does the Bible say? You got to always check, compare what I say with what does the Bible say. So it says in verse 12, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. So she's just going to do something good. Today, that would be really hard to find. It was like I heard one person say one time, do you know why Jesus was not born at this time in history? Because it would be really hard to find 3 wise men and a virgin. Yeah. And here when it says she does her husband good, not evil, there's a lot of times people are just self-centered. It's can I get? Me. There was people say, put yourself first. That's how to destroy your life. But Jesus said this, he that saves his life will lose it. But he that loses his life for others shall save it. Investing your life in other people can make all the difference. And it says here, she does her husband good, not evil, all her days, all the time. The second thing, it says, she seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. So what are wool and flax? Well, wool comes from sheep or goats, and they would use that to make clothing. Guthrie is wearing a wool coat today in church. It was so cold today that he just had to put this wool coat on. And no, we are doing a reenactment today, and so what he is wearing is a wool coat, but the vest he's wearing is made out of flax, as is mine. What is flax? Flax is a plant, and you weave the plant, and it's really, wool's one thing. You got to take all of this, you got to shear all the hair off of the goat or the sheep, and then you have to comb it out, get all the gunk out of it, and then you have to spin it and you make it into a thread, and then you weave it. Flax is a plant. So you would grow the plant, and then you had to beat that, and you had to flatten that out, and then you had to work that, and that became linen. So wool and linen were two natural fibers. Both of them breathe. Most of our Revolutionary War uniforms, the stuff we wear, are made out of, yeah, that's linen too. This is linen. Linen, linen, and linen. So she would go and seek wool and linen. She found material to make good clothing. Now, some of the pagans would just take the skins of animals. That was a lot easier to do. It was a lot easier to make clothing out of leather. Leather is from a hide. But this involved a whole lot of work, and it said she worked willingly with her hands. It wasn't like, okay, I got to make another shirt. Okay, I got to make another gown. No, this is describing her. This is something she did willingly. And then it goes on and says in Proverbs chapter 31, verse 14, she is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. So merchants were good at trading. They're business people. And it said here that she was like a merchant ship. She seeks her food from afar. So she didn't just go out to the backyard. What do we got today? I got some eggs, I got some milk, I got some chickens, or I got goat. This is what we're going to have. She went down to the market. She went a distance. She didn't have a car to hop into. She couldn't take an Uber to get there. So she goes to the market walking, and she's looking and shopping wisely. And what's she doing? The one thing, this particular one says she gets her food from afar. She was making interesting meals. She does, so, yeah, you could just get by on meat and potatoes. Yeah, and some people are just happy with, we had a fella in the fire department when he died, and I remember doing his funeral, I talked to his wife, what did she miss? She says, I'm just going to miss this. He had the same breakfast every day. He wanted the same lunch, he wanted the same supper. She was just used to making, that's all he wanted, that's what made him happy. But she went and found interesting things to add, different things to try. And I've been overseas, Grace came overseas, and she came back. She makes a Thai curry soup. And there's different types. Apparently Word of Life makes one that doesn't taste the same, Robert said. He didn't like that at all. But so there's certain spices and things that would add variety, and it's said here, like a merchant ship. So she was a good shopper. She prepared interesting meals for her family. It wasn't just, okay, here. I do like in that one song at the beginning that my mom makes the best macaroni, even though it came from a box, Remember that? And honestly, when I was a kid, my mother didn't cook anyway, but the Kraft macaroni and cheese, have you ever bought ShopRite macaroni and cheese? It doesn't taste the same. There's something about it. But she went and she found something, she found the variety and she did that. And then it says in verse 15, She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. So she gets up before the sun gets up. Now, in the Bible, that's a little different than here, contextually, if you want to keep that in mind. Pretty much the sun goes up and down at 6 o'clock every day. Here, it changes drastically. Here, we have 8 hours difference of light between December 21st and June 21st. On June 21st, the sun comes up 4 hours sooner than it does on December 31st and goes down 4 hours later than it does on December 31st. I had a friend who moved to Alaska. He almost died because the sun didn't go down. He worked all day long. Honestly, he had to move. The doctor told him, you can't live here. Because he's used to getting up at sunrise and going down. He comes outside at 3 o'clock. His wife said, Zeke, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, yeah, but the sun didn't go down yet. But this lady, she's getting up before the sun gets up. She's getting up early, and it said that she provided meat for her family and for the people working for her. So obviously she's got other people working around there, and she didn't make them eat before you come, but she came and she provided meat. I remember we used to go speak at this one Bible conference. One of the highlights is the camp director's wife was this amazing cook. It was fun just to go stay at her house. I'll never forget, we're at a house one time, it was breakfast, and she brought out a plate of bacon. She put it in front of one of my kids, and I said I was going to reach for it. And she said, that's hers. A whole plate of bacon. I mean, that's one of the essential food groups anyway. But a whole plate, that was for her. She made one for everybody like that. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, and it says here, the virtuous woman, she gets up all this night to provide food for her family. They ever hear the saying, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach? Not always, but it definitely does make a difference. And I've told people at Christian camps, whenever they're planning camps and family conferences, I've said the two most important things are the speaker, to make sure you got good teaching, and the food. Because you can stay in tents. I went out to a Bible conference in Utah. They didn't even have bathrooms. I couldn't believe it. There's no bathroom. They're outhouses. You want to use an outhouse for a week? That's not on my bucket list. Nope. Use an outhouse. No running water. The only running water is you ran and got it. Yeah. And imagine here, she got up to take care of the family and all of this. But food can make a whole lot of difference. You have happy people, you can sleep in a tent, you'll sleep on uncomfortable rocks, as long as you get up and you got good teaching, you got good food. And then it says in verse 16, she considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. Okay, wait, whoa. The woman, this is not the man doing this. The woman is buying real estate. Back in the Bible, people like to think, the Bible, just subservient and stuff like that. She's buying real estate. You ever notice how many women, by the way, are real estate agents? Okay? She's wisely considering it. She's going out there, and it says she considers a field. She doesn't buy it, she thinks about it. That means she balances it, she evaluates it. She makes a wise business decision, and she purchases real estate. And then she plants a vineyard. A vineyard produces food for your family and continuing income. Remember when I was in India, the income level is a whole lot different than here, and you cannot compare dollars with rupees. It doesn't work. I mean, I took 6 men out to eat. We went to a really nice restaurant. It cost us 25 cents. Now, that wasn't per person. It was 25 cents for 6 of us to have one of the most incredible breakfasts you ever had because of the power of the dollar. But they said if you could have 10 rubber trees, if you could plant 10 rubber trees, that'll provide support for a whole family for a year. So imagine this woman, she's getting a vineyard. And there's a lot of work that goes involved with that. You're growing grapes and or olives. That's what the two crops when you say vineyard in the Bible. She's growing grapes or olive. And it has many purposes, medicinally, all different things. And she considers this and she plants this. So now she's producing income. She's a virtuous woman. She's not just staying home. And then it goes on. It says, she considereth her loins and strength and strengtheneth her arms. Now, that doesn't mean she's out there, necessarily lifting weights, but it says she's willing to do hard work. She's out there doing hard work. She's not complaining. I'll tell you something. You ever move furniture around your house? You ever have to move furniture? You ever notice how heavy some things are? A couch, a dresser. I would be amazed sometimes. I mean, it would be time to, Becky would want to move some furniture, and I'd try to help her, and you almost could think of any excuse you could think of to not have to do that, because it's heavy. I would go away for a meeting for a week. I'd come back, and the furniture was moved. It's like, did you bring? No, she did it herself. She'd just get out there and do this, herself. Of course, she grew up on a farm. She's throwing 35-pound bales of hay up on a cart, But it says here, the virtuous woman, she's willing to work with her hands. She's doing hard work. This is hard work. It's hard work being a mom. And then in verse 18 it says, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. What is that about? Well, she has merchandise. What does that mean? She's got her own business. She's actually making some kind of products, whether she's making something from the grapes or the olives, whether she's sewing things, making things, whatever. It says her merchandise is good. She has a second job after the other one is done, and it's not outside of the home. It's right there in the house. My daughter-in-law is one of the things she represents a social media influencer, and she does a lot of courtroom stuff and things like that. But on the side, I called her one day and I said, what are you doing? She makes essential oils. She makes her own essential oils. And that's not for the truck or car. That's something women use, And she goes to markets and stuff in addition to doing her regular job, in addition to having a husband and 2 kids. She's out there with her own business, and she knows she has good merchandise, and she gets good reviews online. She's got her own business. And it says here, and she works by candlelight. In other words, she's staying up later. She's getting up early, she's staying up later. Not because she has to. She wants to. She's good at this. And the next one, and then it says, and she layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. So what does that mean? She's not buying fabric, she's making it. So she's literally weaving the wool. She's literally weaving the flax. And it says here that she's making material, and it says that it's not just for her own family. So she does that. And then in verse 20 it says, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she stretcheth forth her hands to the needy. So she's not just helping her family. She's helping someone else. Remember what that question was asked the girl? If a mom was paid, how much would she be paid? That's got to be worth at least $100 a year, right? No, my goodness, look at all the work that this person is doing. I mean, the husband is out there earning a living to provide for the family, but she's doing all of this other stuff. She's using this creativity, and she's helping others who are in need. And I'm not just talking giving to the poor. There's a lot of people who come to get food that you wonder why they're there. In fact, they don't. When the guy drives up in a Mercedes to the food bank, when the people miss the food bank every month because they're gone on a cruise or a trip to Disney, and then they're in line at the food pantry, and you say, how do you know this? Because I'm there every week. Okay? So it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not the poor people you give to. Now, I know there are some there that definitely need this. And there are poor people. There's people who take advantage of the system. That's not the person she's helping. When you see that person standing at the corner asking for money and they'll work for food, offer them a job, watch what happens. They say no. I need food. And you look and you see when they pull out their iPhone, the latest iPhone, or they have their AirPods on, Or you look at the shoes they're wearing and you go, yeah, right. But she's helping people genuinely are in need. And there are people like that. And then verse 21, and she's not afraid of the snow for her household. Now, most people in the Middle East didn't, when you think of Middle East, you don't think of snow. But there are mountains there that have snow. You can look up at Mount Hermon. There's snow on Mount Hermon almost year-round. And there are people who live in the snowy areas around there, too. It gets cold. And by the way, what you mean is cold and I mean is cold is different. First time I went to India, I went there during the dry season. That's the best time to go, Don't go during monsoon. It rains every single day. Well, I get there. I leave New Hampshire. It was 20 below zero. Not fluke. It didn't get above 20 below zero. It went down to 40 below that month. I went to India. It was 120. I felt like I was going to die. It was so hot. Everything was so hot. I said, I'm coming back next time in monsoon. So I came back during monsoon. It rained every single day. It was 70 degrees. It felt wonderful. And they're wearing winter coats and shaking and shivering. It says here, she's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. Okay, scarlet. That's like one of the most expensive fabrics out there. This lady's able to look good, dress good, and take care of her family. She says, I don't worry about the snow. They have quality, warm weather clothing for her family. Wow. Then verse 23, it says, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. Her husband is known in the gates. This is a quality of the virtuous woman. She's not the virtuous woman because everybody knows who her husband is. Everybody knows who her husband is because of her. He has a great reputation because of her. She's a good woman. And as a result of it, he's one of the leaders in town because he's got a great wife. And says the husband is it. You ever hear that saying? They used to say it's true. Behind every great man's a great woman. Yes, right. Kicking her out of the house. No, I mean, but no. But she can make a huge difference. And so look at that. So she's there and he's known as a leader among men. Then verse 24, it says, her husband, she maketh fine linen and selleth it and delivereth girdles unto the merchants. Not just linen, but fine linen. She's not just making and marketing products. She's delivering high quality products. And the girdle's incredibly expensive and difficult garment to make. And so here she is. She's out there making and selling quality materials and products. She's not just going out picking the eggs from the chicken and milking the cow and taking that to market or fixing the meat. Nope. She's making these high quality products. And by the way, this was used for years for when I was growing up, a lot of wives started to have home businesses. And it's another alternate way to generate income, but fulfill yourself. And then it goes on and says in verse 25, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She's adorned with strength and honor. People look at her and say, wow, there's a good person. She has that strength, she has that honor. She's not worried about the times. She rejoiceth no matter what comes. She's not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow because she's been preparing. She's not freaking out. And it says in verse 26, she openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. So a virtuous woman has wisdom. She's got good advice. She's got experience. She has knowledge that she's able to share with others. What she says is helpful and a blessing to others. You want to be around someone like that. The things that she has to say is good. And then in verse 27, it says, she looketh well to the ways of her household and eateth not the bread of idleness. She considers what's going to help her family. And that's what she does. She says, what's going to help my family? And she's out there doing that. She's not just wasting time. You say, wow, this lady, does she have any spare time? Remember that saying? It was true. A man may work from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Yep. And I've heard people say that while they're sitting there with their remote control watching TV for 4 hours a day. No, that's not what this is talking about. That's not this lady. Okay, it's not her. Not that you can't relax. You need to relax. You need to have time for your family. You need to relax. It's not like she works and drops dead at night, out of exhaustion. These are things she willingly does. And then it praises her. It says in verse 28, her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Notice that the distinction between the two. The children rise up and praise her. The husband also. Okay. I told you previously I grew up in an abusive household, and we didn't know any better. I'll never forget, I saw a guy on Dry Bar Comedy. He's a guy from Puerto Rico, funny as all get out. And he said he didn't know that the things what his mom did, that other people didn't do. I didn't know other people didn't. I didn't know what being a good mom was about because I didn't have one, right? So my brothers at times have said, what a wonderful mom we had. It's like, you don't know. You just had nothing to compare it to. So sometimes the children can rise up and bless her, but it says the husband does too. He knows better. So the children do. Now, by the way, sometimes children know they don't want to be around mom. Okay, because mom is a problem. But it says here, with a virtuous woman, her children rise up and, hey, that's my mom. And her husband too. And that's something. He praiseth her. That means they speak well of her. Too many times we take things for granted and we don't say thank you. We told all our kids that. Say thank you. You should say thank you for food. You say thank you for anything anybody gives you. If someone gives you something, they don't say thank you, you're not getting something again. Right? Have you been taught to say thank you? But her family praises her. And then it says in verse 29, many daughters have done virtuously. Oh, well, that's interesting. There are a bunch of virtuous women, it's saying, but thou excellest them all. You do better than any of them. You do better than any of them. And I've seen what other moms do, but I've seen what my wife does for our kids and grandkids, and she excels. Okay, doesn't just do the minimum, goes beyond. It says she does better. And verse 30, it says, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Faith, what do you mean? Favor is deceitful, beauty is vain. There's some people use the way they look to manipulate other people. And being attractive isn't necessarily the best thing. When I was in Bible college, I sang with two sisters and a brother. They represented the school. The four of us went out representing the college as musicians to get people to come there. And a lot of guys would come because of one of the girls. She was really attractive. She's a good friend of mine. I actually wrote a few songs for her. Not love songs, but songs trying to challenge her and encourage her, because she was pretty and knew it. What? She was pretty and knew it. Right? She was, she used it. And I was talking to her brother, met him years later in a conference. I said, how's she doing? He said, well, she's been married and divorced 3 times. The guy she's with now isn't her husband. Now I know, I looked up again on Facebook, now she's by herself again. And she used so much makeup and stuff that she literally burnt her skin and dried it out. And she looks, Becky's turning 70 tomorrow, and she looks like she's in her mid-50s, and Sue's got that same type of thing going here. It's kind of neat when you have people like that. But you look at her, and she looks like she's 90. She looks awful. Beauty is vain. But this person here, she doesn't manipulate with her favor or beauty, and she's praised because of it. And that says in verse 31, give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. People are going to look and say, she is good. She is good. She should be acknowledged and rewarded. When you find a virtuous woman like that, you got a wife like that or a mom like that, you better encourage them. It says they're hard to find. They're worth more than rubies, the most valuable jewel of its day. That's an important thing. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, We thank you for those women who strive to fulfill these things. And you say, some of them may be sitting here thinking, I can't do that. And we know that's true. We can't do it. But I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Lord, I pray you give them the strength. And help us to encourage and lift them up and strengthen them. And thank you for the gift that you've given to us of these very special women. We ask your blessing on them in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to finish this with a song. I played it back in Valentine's on February 13th. It was midnight. I was about to go to bed. And this song came to mind, the song, the music and the words and everything. It's interesting because one of the town board members said, I said something about a song I released. He says, I stopped listening to them. A friend of mine told me that, it's not possible for anybody to write one song a week. You're not really writing these. And so he stopped listening to them. And I said, well, that's interesting. First off, I have about over 200 songs that I've written in the past. Some of you are familiar with the name Fanny Crosby, blind hymn writer. She wrote Blessed Assurance. Daniel, I was telling Daniel the story yesterday about that person saying that. And he said, I guess they don't know about Charles Wesley. Charles Wesley, his brother John, started the Methodist Church. I don't know if it was John or Charles. One of them was number 14 of the children. And he wrote over 5,000 songs. Fanny Crosby, the blind person from Southeast, whose some of her family members came to church here, she only wrote 8,000 songs. Okay. And the Bible says, sing unto the Lord a new song. So when God gives me a song, I write it down, I put it down. And this one, and I sing it and then record it and go from there. This is using a computer program, so it did clean up my voice with some of the vibrato and things like that. But it was just like it all came. The words came, everything came. And so that night I put it together and played this for Becky. So this was written for her, and we did play it one more time, but I want you to see this again with tomorrow being her 70th birthday. This was a gift that I had done for her, and I hope this is true of you with your love for your loved one. It's called I'll Love You Today.
I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. This is my prayer, I pray every day.
I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today.
I know love is more than just the words I say. I pray my life will show you every day. May I love you more today than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today. I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is my prayer, I pray every day. I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today. Love suffers long and it is always kind. It envies not and tries not to waste someone else's time. It does not brag or act selfishly. It does its best to be as good as it can be. It is not happy when things go the wrong way. It stands for truth and brings hope to each day. I love you today more than I did yesterday. That is my prayer, I pray every day. I love you today more than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today. Love will believe and work as hard as it can to bring peace and goodness to your hand. It is not perfect, but it will always abide and do its best
to always be by your side.
I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is my prayer, I pray every day. I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today. I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is my prayer, I pray every day. I'll love you today more than I did yesterday. That is the prayer that I pray today.
That is the prayer
That I pray today.
I'll love you today more than I did yesterday.